Well, good afternoon, Angela. Thanks for joining us. I think a good place to start would be if you can give us a high-level overview of the Military Spouse Economic Empowerment Zone program and its connection to Spokane and how it's been launched and some of that background.
Yeah, so I think before understanding the Military Spouse Economic Empowerment Zone, I want to talk a little bit about Hiring Our Heroes, and then it streamlined from there, where Hiring Our Heroes is part of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Foundation, and they have 5 different pillars that they support, and Hiring Our Heroes is one of them. And so a lot of the work that we do stems back to that Chamber of Commerce feeling of bringing the community together. So the Military Spouse Economic Empowerment Zones are working groups within Hiring Our Heroes that support and advocate for military spouse unemployment and underemployment. And these working groups are across the United States and are comprised of business partners in the community, as well as economic development organizations like GSI and chambers of commerce, as well as workforce development organizations in the Department of Veteran Affairs. So like I said, they're looking to help the unemployment, underemployment that military spouses face through 3 pillars, which are hire, train, and advocate pillars.
Great. Maybe you could give us a little bit more detail about when you talk about military spouses, who comprises that pool of people that your program and the local programs are looking to help find employment?
We consider military spouse anyone that's been impacted by the military spouse life cycle. So that could be military spouse past, present, or future. So if there was somebody that their spouse was active duty and retired, we still consider them somebody that's been impacted by the lifestyle, and we serve that community. Of course, present, that one's a little bit easier to understand. It's easy to know what those active duty members look like. And then future, sometimes we'll have people that are cohabitating, or maybe they're engaged where they're still impacted by the life cycle or the lifestyle, but they're not immediately a military spouse. They're not a married couple. So we still serve that community. We serve active duty, of course, any branch that of the military, in addition to Navy Reserves and Coast Guard. And so we serve a diverse population.
What are some of the misconceptions maybe about the military spouse community? And then second to that would be, could you list off some things employers can do to maybe become more military spouse or military family friendly?
The number one misconception I hear about military spouses is that we're only going to be here for 3 years. And sometimes that's true. Sometimes we are in the duty station for 2 years, 4 years, but in reality, some people are there for a lot longer. And then the way that the workforce is now, a lot of people stay with the job for only 3 years. And so if you give a military spouse an opportunity, they're going to be so grateful for that opportunity that what we see is oftentimes they want to leave the workplace better than they found it. And so there's this duty of obligation, and they bring that resilience and that ability to adapt and be agile to the workforce that is not otherwise seen in some of the civilian counterparts that when you're looking for employment. So I think that's the number one misconception. Also, we often find that military spouses are finding an entry-level position those are easy to access, and they don't realize that military spouses do come with an abundance of not only education, but also that career experience. So somehow, despite all the military moves or move up within positions, but as you move up, it gets more and more difficult to find employment because that's based on oftentimes relationships that are built in the communities. And so it's difficult for a military spouse to move from place to place and have those relationships in place. And that's why the MC's work group is so important, because we want people to move to the area and have that community and those relationships already in place.
Are you finding that now with the impact that COVID has had on the workforce and the way that people are working has changed most probably significantly, that a lot of people are working from home? Like I'm working from home today, Steph's at home today. Is that having an effect on the employment opportunities and the tenure that these people that are being employed have?
Absolutely. So remote employment that's been such a positive thing for military spouses that's come out of COVID. And I think for so many people, for women that are juggling childcare, and if they have to re-enter the workforce, it's always been more of a challenge for women, which 92% of military spouses are women. So some of the comparisons we make to the community are often aligned with the women in the workforce. But in addition to accompanying spouses in general, if you have the opportunity to work remote, then those positions are now portable and you can stay with the role a lot longer. And so what we found is in the past, when we were knocking down the door and begging and pleading our case for remote employment and turned down, now whenever it was forced into that situation, we've seen that we can work in these situations, and sometimes we're more productive and we're able to juggle more things, and we're able to bring this talent that sometimes wouldn't have had an opportunity in the past to the workforce and helping the work community as well.
I think that Steph touched on this a moment ago, but I think it's an important point, and I want to make sure that we address it. Are there things that employers can do to make themselves more attractive to a military family or military spouse to apply for those positions? Are there certain things? I mean, it sounds like maybe remote work would be something that would be important to somebody who maybe is going to only be in the area for a shorter amount of time. But are there other things that employers can do to attract those candidates?
Yes, and I apologize, I did leave that out. Some things, we have a program called Discover the Talent, which is a way for employers to identify themselves as a military spouse friendly hiring employer. And all they have to do is register on the website, and then they'll earn a badge that they can put on their website, social media, email signature block. And what that does is signal to military spouses that they can identify as a military spouse, because otherwise, oftentimes what happens is there are resume gaps or transferable skills from volunteering, or basically an untraditional resume that's otherwise not explained. But if you can say, I'm a military spouse, it'll open up the opportunity for them to have a conversation, and you can actually put a face with the name and just kind of bridge that divide between the person that's applying and the resume that may look a little bit different than you're used to with the traditional resume.
So is that where employers should go to, for example, post positions that they have available, or would they just use traditional methods and use this icon or this badge that you discussed?
We spoke about the MC's working group, and that's an opportunity for employers to directly connect with military spouses. And they can do a variety of things as being part of that working group. They could have panel discussions where there's maybe an industry panel and we're talking about different opportunities for education, what certifications are needed, how to get your foot in the door, what are some techniques as far as interview skills that would be useful for that specific industry. In addition, we have a dashboard that the employers can access where military spouses are uploading their resume. It's geographically targeted, so you can view resumes on demand that may be relevant to the career or the industry that you're in.
Great.
Can you talk a little bit more about the Spokane working group and maybe how it's facilitated through Greater Spokane Incorporated and kind of that relationship?
Yes, so we're very excited to have a relaunch of the Spokane working group. And the way that the working groups are, we have a pillar chair, or the chair of the working group, and that's Jessica Kirk. She's with Greater Spokane Incorporated. She has done a phenomenal job, and so she's really that advocate, the person that's kind of leading the way for the working group. We also have a co-chair and then a hire chair, train chair, and advocate chair in the working group as well. But all of those people are the leads of that working group, leading this mission and cause, and we can have additional people that are part of the working group as well. But as I said, Jessica has been such an advocate. I think it aligns with the work that she's doing as well. And so we strive for those win-win relationships whenever we're working in these groups and trying to bring in all those community partners that are going to be a good fit for this effort.
Can you talk about kind of one of your biggest challenges with your specific role right now, and what you and your team do to kind of overcome some of those challenges?
So much of my role is remote. So I think we spoke about it earlier that I'm in Florida. I'm like, but the location doesn't matter. And I'll just stay up later. I'll get up early. The time zones don't matter. But I think it's, it takes a very, very cognizant effort to build relationships through a screen whenever you're working remote. And I think when you talk about remote environments and communication, it's a lot of work. And I think it's even more difficult than it is if you were in person, because you have this conversation as you're just walking by, or you had a thought, and you get to make those personal connections to talk about what your family is doing, what you're doing on the weekend. So everything that I do is very intentional, and I make I try to go the extra mile to make it meaningful whenever we do have those conversations.
Great. What's maybe the number one takeaway for our small business employer members in Spokane about the program that you want to leave them with?
What I'd like for the business owners to recognize is that there's talent out there and they want to work and they can be a valuable asset to your business. And we serve businesses small to large. And so don't feel like your business is not going to have the opportunity to benefit because you're a smaller business. We want to help the local community and the small businesses, medium, and any way that we can. And we want to be a resource for you. So I don't want there to be any misconceptions about who we serve, because we want to serve everyone and find a good place and a good fit for anyone involved.
Great. And go ahead, Jen.
I know that we'll have all of the information, the websites and contact information that you talked about on the website too. So that will be able to be accessed by people that are listening or members.
Thank you. Yes, and please feel free to share my email, anything that's helpful, please feel free to share that.
Great.
Great. Well, thank you for your time, and we'll follow up with those contact details on the website. Thanks so much.
Thank you.